Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel, welcome back to our suburban homestead. I just want to give you a little walk around to show you what I've been up to this week, what we've got happening. So one of the things that I've been doing this week is experimenting with spiderwort. Now I originally planted a lot of these around in my front yard as ornamentals, but I have recently discovered that they are also edibles. Not only the blossoms, which are edible, you can add to salads and things like that, but also the leaves. Cooking them up, it's a lot like cooking up any green, whether it's collards or mustard greens or something like that. They have that same sort of flavor. So I had some of those are really good. And the other thing is the shoots, the green tender shoots here. You can take those and cook them a lot like you would asparagus. Now they have their own flavor, but it was really good, but it did remind me a lot of asparagus. And I'll say if you use the tender green ones, you're going to be a lot happier. I was doing some research and someone said that the older down here you could eat as well, but I found those to be really stringy. So I would say go with these brighter green tender shoots. Those were a lot more pleasant to eat, but they were really good. So my disclaimer, however, is that you need to research and know what you're getting before you consume anything like this, like with the spiderwort. Make sure you know what you're doing and identify the plant before you eat it. Still waiting on the figs. Alright, there's my blackberries. I still haven't finished that trellising yet, but those are coming along nicely. Alright, so one of the things that I have been doing is weeding, or not weeding, but thinning out my beds. There's my carrots. I've got 2 boxes of carrots here. I need to do some repotting. I've actually got a broken pot here with an asparagus that's still just kind of laying on top of the ground, and you can see the difference in the green between this pineapple and this pineapple. I definitely got to get that repotted. But I have been repotting a few things. These are chives, garlic chives. And I've got some little rosemary sprouts I need to put in the ground as well. And we've been continuing to harvest some bamboo shoots. But one of the most exciting things that has happened this week is that we had our first litter of bunnies. These are Marshmallows bunnies. And she had these just a few days ago, the night of the 22nd, or the 21st rather. And they're already starting to get some hair on them. They're still pretty pink though. Cute little bunnies. We have 4 that's got spots, and we've got 2 that are going to be white. So that's really exciting. It's a good start to our rabbitry. So in just one more week, both Cinnamon and Spice are going to be kidding as well. So we'll have 2 more Kindles. The bunnies. Hey Cinnamon. What you doing, Cinnamon? So we're excited about that. So that's been fun this week. Let me close the gate. Now Lexi, my dog, back in the background there, she is a smart dog. She's a really good dog. Probably one of the best dogs I've ever had. And if I leave the gate open, she won't go out. She'll stay. Huh. This is interesting. I just found this little one on the ground. So Lexi is a really good dog. She's a smart dog. If I leave the gate open, she gets on the porch and she sits there. She knows not to leave the gate. And I think I only got onto her for that one time, and then from then on she just began sitting herself on the porch. So she teaches herself a lot. She picks up quick. She's very smart. But I just found her here with a baby bunny, a little white bunny that came out of Marshmallow's box. And the only thing that I can figure is that when she was nursing, she must have drug it out, because sometimes they'll latch on and they get pulled out onto the wire, and then the bunny found its way through one of the slots, which it would have had to just been barely big enough to squeeze through, because it's already gaining weight. It is one of the biggest ones of the Kindle. So that was interesting. But she had found it over there, and she brought it over here and was laying down on the ground with it. I don't know what her intentions were, if she was going to mother it as if it were her puppy, or if she was just waiting to eat it. I'm not really sure, because she is a hunter. She's a ferocious hunter, but she is also wanting to be a mother very badly. Certain times of her cycle, she'll get her toys, and she'll take her toys around and make little place little wallows, little beds for her toys, and she'll put her toys in there and she'll curl up and lay in there and whine with them. So she's a good dog. I have no idea what she would have done ultimately with that bunny. I feel like she was going to mother it because it was not hurt. She brought it from over there over here. It had no marks on it whatsoever. So I think she was probably more on the maternal side with it. Either way, I think she saved it, because if it had fallen out and I'd not seen it, that she had it over here, it would have stayed on the ground and died. So way to go, Lexi. So another thing that I did this week was ordered 8 black Astrolorp chicks, and they will be in next week, about a week and a half from now. And so I needed a brooder box. So what I have been doing is taking an old shipping crate, and I have been converting that into a brooder box. Now this came from a company. They had received materials in it. They didn't have use for it, and we're going to discard it. At the time I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew that I wanted to keep this chest. So what I did was, it was on a skid, and you can see the 2x4s down here on the bottom. I left those there to hold it up off the ground, give me some airflow underneath there. However, these 2x4s were part of the skid that the forklift uses to pick it up. Now I took those off, and the top of the crate was just simply that piece of OSB. And so all I did was attach the OSB and the 2x4s here to make a lid. I put some hinges on it, and that way I could open it up. Now also I put some rope on each side here, and that rope just gives me the ability to open my lid and let it stay open while I do work and stuff in here. And then I had a vent, and this vent again was from a remodel project that someone was doing, and there was 2 of them. I think they had something wrong with them, so they didn't use them. They were going to throw them away, and so I grabbed them. I got another one in there, so I used one of those here for ventilation, and just put that there. Now I still have a few things to do with this brooder. I have to add something here to hold my light. I considered just building it into the lid, but then I didn't like that that it would be opening up here. So I'm just going to put something across here that I can clamp a light to keep the chicks warm. And for now, I'm just going to be using the plastic feeder and water. I'll show you guys when I have the chicks. I've got some in the building here. I thought about building in an automatic watering system. I don't think, with the amount of chicks that I'm going to be keeping in here now, I'm not going to do that right away, but I may go back later and add me a little area here with some wire mesh inside, you know, raised up a little bit, that I have my watering nipples and stuff. But that's going to be a project for later. The only other thing that I'm going to do now before I get these chicks is I'm going to put a piece of screen. That's what this is. It's a wire screen. I'm just going to put that on the back side of this vent, just because I don't think anything, I know an animal's not going to get in there. I don't think a snake big enough to hurt the chicks will squeeze through there. I can fit my pinky through there. However, just to be on the safe side, I am going to put a piece of screen there. So that is my brooder box so far. I've got to get out here and finish it in just a little bit, and go put it in place, and that way I will be ready next week for my chicks. So I've also put myself on a waiting list for some Caledon quail. There are Coturnix quail, but they're a breed that lays blue eggs, and so I should have some of those in the next couple of weeks as well. So one of the things I'll be doing pretty soon is constructing a quail pen. I've got an old pallet over there that I salvaged. I think I'll start using the word salvage more than scavenge. So I've got this pallet here. Actually, I've got a couple of them. Those will become my quail pen, and then I've got hardware cloth that I'm reusing off of some old pens and an old trailer that I have, and I'm going to use that, and hopefully I won't have to buy any materials for my quail pen. Let's go look at the potatoes. I planted these late. I'll still get potatoes out of them. They just might be smaller potatoes. As you can see, they are coming up and sprouting, and they're doing well in here. Looks like something's been digging in here, probably a squirrel. So what I'm going to do is, I've got dirt down the bottom, and then this is kind of a mulchy potting mix that I had in some old pots. They actually were pots like this that had landscaping shrubs in them. These weren't going to be used on a landscaping job. Part of them, I think about 6 of them, had already been neglected and had not gotten any water, so they died. But I reused the pots, reused the potting mix, and I brought these 2 back to life. So I'll see if I can find a place for those to do a little landscaping. So there are my potatoes. I've got one more potato. This one came up from last year in an experiment that I was doing. This is a small blue potato, and I'm about to show you something that's pretty controversial. What I did was I found this little potato growing here, and it's having a hard time. We've had a couple of big storms, and it's really taking a beating. So anyway, I used the dirt that was in this little bed, and I found this potato that came up as a volunteer, and it looks like I have some slugs eating it now as well, so I need to try to take care of that problem. So I took the dirt, all the other dirt, to reuse it, and then this I left, and then I put some more of that potting mix that I put on my other potatoes around it. And I needed something to contain it. I didn't have anything right off. I wasn't going to build anything for this pitiful little potato, but I did have this old tire. I couldn't get rid of it. We used to have our trash pickup used to take a certain amount of tires a year. Well, now they won't take any. So I had this tire. I threw it out by the road. They wouldn't take it, and I haven't hauled it to the landfill yet. But it was perfect for containing this potato. And so there's a lot of opinions on this about the material, the tires, leaching chemicals into the soil, or whether they're not going to leach any chemicals into the soil. And I'm really just doing this for this one time as an experiment for this potato. I would lean away from putting stuff in tires on a regular basis. However, you know, there's a lot of people that do it. and they seem to be doing fine. So my grandfather did this, and he would take tires, and as the potato grew, he would stack the tires on top of each other and continue to fill them. And then when he was ready to harvest, he would just take the tires off and dig the potatoes out. Now, again, that's not something I'm going to be doing going forward. I would rather have a bed made out of wood, but that's what I did for this one, just to give it something and see what it does. I don't know that I would support a commercial production that was growing things in tires. I would probably spend my money elsewhere, but if you're doing it for your own consumption, yeah, to each his own. Alright, I got a little row of strawberries. They're putting strawberries on, so that's good. They're right out here in the middle of the yard. So I'm gonna have to do a project and to get me a small raised bed for my strawberries. Originally, when I put these here, this was the edge of a garden. I had a garden here where the trampoline is. It's nice, rich soil, good sun, great place for a garden, but it's also a great place for a trampoline. And so I wanted to do the raised beds anyway, so I just moved my garden over there. I have less space in the raised beds, however they produce a lot better than the garden did with the ground. Alright, and so in my raised beds, well, before I get into the raised beds, let's look here. I planted some flowers along through here. These were some that my daughter, Katie, she's my middle child, 6-year-old, and she loves getting out here and doing stuff out here in the garden area with me. And so she had a seed packet with some flowers, and we planted those seeds here. And then I had been gifted at Easter another little packet of daisies, and so I just stuck those around in a few different places. I got some thyme. I originally planted this thyme on what is now my parents' property. It's a property I traded my parents for a lake property, and so we used to live there. I had thyme planted. I just got this from down there this week and planted it. So far so good. My oregano is doing well. I got butternut squash, cantaloupe, and watermelon growing there. Those will be planted in my corner bed up at the corner of the property, or the corner of the backyard. I've got a little garden area there, and they'll be planted up there. I'm still debating on what I'm going to do with that. If I'm going to try to build some raised beds, or just plant them in pots and let them grow over, or just put them in the ground. I have not decided yet. So everything's going good here. We've got little tomatoes coming on our tomato plant, so that's awesome. And I got some rocambole garlic. Again, I got this rocambole garlic from the property that I traded with my father, and so that's right now it's really small because it wasn't divided out. But when it's time to harvest it, I'll take it and divide it, and I'll start growing some rocambole along with the elephant garlic. Now, this is parsley. So I bought a little pot of parsley and a little pot of basil, and they each had multiple plants in them. Some of them were fairly close. It might have ordinarily killed different plants, but basil is pretty easy to root, so I went ahead and separated it out, and I separated the parsley out, and I planted. And so here's one of my little herb beds. I got my cilantro, my dill, but I planted a little sprig of parsley here. I clipped off the big leaves when I planted it, and just left a little small one like this, and you can see it's already put out more, so it's establishing well. And then I planted another one over in this bed. There's my lettuces. I'm thinning those out and using them as microgreens as we go, or thinning them out and using them as salad as we go. So I just cut the grass today. So I've been out here weeding these beds, getting as many of the weeds as I can out of them. And I am about to take my grass clippings and I mulched them and bagged them and just threw them here in the wheelbarrow. Part of them, some of them I put on my compost pile. But I'm about to take these grass clippings and start mulching my raised beds with them to help prevent weeds. Now, when you are using the grass as mulch, when you collect it, I cut it short. And when I cut it short, I go back, I cut it again before any of the weeds have time to come up and seed out. Because if you cut the grass and you have weeds that have seeded out, you're planting the seeds in your bed. So that's not a good thing. So when I am gonna mulch with this grass, I make sure the week before I cut it low, and then I cut it again the next week. I cut it before any of the weeds have popped back up and started seeding out, because I don't want to plant them in my bed. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. Is I'm going to throw this on my raised beds. My sugar snap peas are doing really good. I went ahead and put a string on there the other day to hold them up, but it's about time that I need to go back and add another string. And so what I'll do is I'll just go from post to post with my bamboo trellising, and I'll put another string on both sides of them to keep them from falling over, because if they get too heavy, they don't have anything to hold on to, they're going to fall over and it's going to bend the stalk. And I have a couple down here that did that already. So I have more carrots. I have a row of carrots growing here, a few little spots here where I got some spinach growing, and then on the back side of it I have cucumbers growing up through there, a row of those. We've got some carrots mixed in. I actually have them going right in with the cucumbers because I forgot I planted carrots back there. And then down here, here's my kale, and it's doing good. It's needing to be thinned out and start using some of the small plants for it. And then on the back side, I have a row of romaine lettuce. In this bed, I don't have tons of stuff right now in this section of it, but I do have my squash that I've started. I did a small row of beans for the time being. I've got I've got 3 radishes and just a few little turnips that came up here. I planted them a little late, but I also planted old seeds. The packet that I used to plant the radishes and the turnips were from a previous year that I didn't plant, so I just took them and threw them out here to see what would happen. Only 3 radishes came up. The turnips came up okay, but the radishes, I actually did 2 rows of radishes, and out of 2 rows of radishes I got 3, so they did not do well at all with the old seed, but that's fine. I would just throw them in here to see what would happen. There's a couple of other things, a couple of other plants here that I'm going to leave. This and this came up on their own. This is lamb's quarter. Now lamb's quarter is a wild plant that we have around here. It's similar to spinach though. If you take the leaves and wilt them, you can use it just like you would any other spinach recipe, but it grows really big. We usually have some of those around, and I'll use those and harvest them. So here are my pepper plants. They're blooming and starting to get some growth on them. Now here's one of my basils, and here's another one. And you can barely tell that's basil. It's only got 2 little leaves. As soon as I put these in the ground, they were attacked by slugs. And so I've been out here the last few nights. I'll come out and I'll get rid of any slugs that I find. But they really did a number on my basil. This is a sorrel. Again, most of the time you just consider it a weed. I'm leaving these in the bed. Down here in the south we call it sour grass, and growing up as a kid you always pick it and eat sour grass, and it is very tart. But you can use it in other things to add a little tartness. So I'm going to keep those sort of as an additional herb type plant, or maybe something to throw in the salads a little bit. And then here are my Belgium giants, and you can see they are starting to produce as well. So everything is going really well here in my garden bed. And I'll get this mulch, and hopefully it'll help me be a little more protective, keep me from having to get out here and weed as much. And the other thing is that I got my rabbit tractor ready for those cute little baby bunnies I just showed you. I've got it put together here, and when they get old enough they'll go in the rabbit tractor. I still have to add my waters and things like that. I have in my Amazon shopping cart some of the rabbit water nipples, so I will start to put me some of the automatic water systems in. I haven't ordered them yet. I've still been kind of pricing them and looking at reviews and trying to figure out what the best ones are, what I want to do with that. But I think I've narrowed it down. I've picked out what I wanted, so I'll be ordering those tonight, along with some parts for my chainsaw, and that's really what's helped me ordering them. I've got some trees to cut and my chainsaw's not working, so I'm going to order a tune-up kit for it. And then here is my current compost situation. I have been regularly filling my bin. I just put grass clippings in here today. So once these start to compact a little bit, you see I've got more here on the ground I can add, but when these start to compact a little bit, I've got cardboard that I'm going to add in here on top, and then I'll put the rest of the grass clippings on and just kind of alternate back and forth between those a little bit. And just continue working toward making me some nice compost that I can put on my garden beds later. This compost bin someone gave me years ago, and I never really used it much. I just started really using it, but I'm actually going to begin doing a different kind of composting system. You see that's still fairly fresh down there. That's how recently it's been that I started using this. But I'm going to start doing, I was going to build a 3-bin system here. I think that I'm going to go a different direction with that though. Instead of doing a 3-bin system like I was going to build here, I'm going to be putting my chicken coop, my pen, is going to be back behind the building. Now that's one of the reasons I got to have my chainsaws, because I got to clear out some trees and things like that before I put my coop and fencing back there. But I'll put the chickens back here, and I will also add my compost somewhere, incorporating it over there with them to help feed them, as well as to help me compost quicker and give me a better compost. So I'm rethinking the way I'm going to do that. It won't be in this bin very much longer. This will be the last year that I have this bin in use probably. So that is another thing on the agenda. And then these are peaches. These don't get a whole lot bigger than this actually. These are small white peaches. They only get probably about this big. They usually have a lot of worms because I haven't sprayed them. I need to try to do something to prevent that from happening, but it's probably too late for these already. But these are a small white peach. I think I've heard some people call them pickling peaches, and so they don't get very big. They are good, they taste good, so we might be using those a little more than we have in the past if I can figure out how to keep the worms out of them. But I think that's all the new stuff that we have done this week. We got a lot of stuff on the list, got a lot of work to do, but we're just doing a little bit at a time. And I'm gonna try to keep you guys informed and up to date on what's going on, just so you can go on this journey with us. Thanks for coming along. See you later.